All right. Welcome to Dance Ninjas teacher training. Um, Today we're going to talk about two things. One, how to find a pro partner, someone to go professionally with, and also how to get hired for teaching workshops and teaching really just how to get hired for things. But we'll look at like big events and as well. Um, Traveling to teach workshops as well, but it's all the same concepts. So to start out, we're going to start with finding a partner. How do you find a partner? And I want you to think, like, first off, what do you think the biggest mistake most people make when searching for a partner is? Yeah, I just want you to think about that for a few seconds. Give yourself 10 seconds. You probably, even just me asking that, you probably have a gut reaction of what you thought it was. And I just want you to go ahead and type that in the chat, or if you're watching this on a replay, just say it out loud real quick to yourself, so that you know what you think it is, right? And I'll share with you what I think it is as we go through this process. Okay, so once more, what is the biggest mistake people make when searching for a partner? All right, and now I promise we'll come to that, but now let's just go into like, how do we find a partner? How do we find someone, and specifically, how do we find someone that's willing to pursue dance professionally with us? And there's a few different ways to do this, but again, before me telling you how to do this, I want you to think for yourself, like, maybe just take 20 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and set a timer for 20 seconds. And I want you to take that 20 seconds and think, brainstorm for yourself what you think are some ways that, try to come up with 2 or 3 ways that you could find a pro partner. Okay, and go. While you're thinking about this, you've probably already come up with at least one way, but odds are your mind actually stopped you from writing it down or saying it out loud or something because you're like, oh, that won't work for whatever reason. 20 seconds. And I want you to realize, like, this is a huge, huge deal, what I'm about to share with you. So write this down. It's very important for not just for finding a partner, but for accomplishing anything in your life, right? If you get stuck on the brainstorming process, when you go to brainstorm something, instead of just going, okay, to find a partner, I could search on Google, I could search on Yahoo, I could ask all my friends, right? Like, notice that took me 5 seconds to come up with 3 things. Now, as I was coming up with those 3 things, my mind was stopping me from coming up with them. Like, it was going, when I said search on Google, it said, oh, but you don't know what to search for, right? And I could have easily let that stop me from writing search on Google down or saying search on Google or using that as a brainstorm. And what that does is the more times you stop yourself, the less creative you're willing to be, right? The less you're willing to just throw ideas out there. And the brainstorming process is not about finding the correct answer or the best answer. It's about finding as many answers as possible in a short amount of time, right? And if you do that, if you're willing to just spit stuff out and not let your brain stop you, then you can come up with a whole bunch of ideas in like 20 seconds, right? Like, I mean, and you can give yourself longer. You can give yourself a minute or 2 minutes or even 5 minutes. But some people will they'll spend years trying to figure something out that could have been figured out in 5 minutes if they were willing to not let their brain stop them so many times, right? Not let that little voice in their head go, no, that won't work for this. And then they don't write the answer down. And the cool thing is, once you brainstorm and you have a whole bunch of ideas, then you are going to have your own reasons why some of them won't work for you, or all of them won't work for you. Who knows? But you're going to have your own reasons why those won't work for you. And I want to point out that's really important to recognize is those are your reasons. They're not my reasons. They're not someone else's reasons, right? So your reasons for you why Google might not work are not the same reasons as why Google might not work for me. In fact, Google might work for me, or some other thing, right? So, so I want you to think, if it's you that has the reason why it won't work, it means that solution, it's not a bad solution. It's just you don't know how to make that solution work for you, right? So now we go, after you brainstorm, you want to go into the analytical phase of going through the options and looking at, why don't these work for me? Like, if they don't work for me, why don't they work for me, right? And is there a way that I can make it work for me, right? Like most people with Google, like some people literally will not look stuff up on Google because they're like, I don't know how, right? And if they just decided, you know what, I don't know how, but I'm going to go to google.com and try, like they'd be shocked at how easy it is. If they just put, how do I find a dance partner in it, there'd probably be a website that pops up. For instance, dancepartner.com, right? Dancepartner.com is a website that if you were to search Google, I bet it would come up within the top search results, and or if not the first page, the second page. And now I have never used, I'll be straight with you, I have never used dancepartner.com to find a partner, but Christina Musser, badass dancer, also one of my partners, has used that to find partners, and she's found it successful to use that and find partners. So it's definitely possible just to use Google, and then bam, you'll have some options. But my point is, this brainstorming process, I call it CBAT. CBAT stands for choose, brainstorm, analyze, train, right? And or train is usually the way I think of it when I'm doing dance stuff, because I'm actually implementing whatever I decided on. Well, let me go through them all. Choose is basically you choose your problem that you're struggling with, right? And basically, okay, I can't find a dance partner. So that's easy. You already did that. Brainstorm is you go through and just brainstorm a whole bunch of ideas of how to solve that, right? You can spend 30 seconds, you can spend 5 minutes. Basically, you want to have, I would say, a minimum of 3 things that you come up with, probably more like 5 minimum, and you can probably stop brainstorming once you have 10 things. But you don't have to. You could get a laundry list of like 20 things. And then based on how many things you have, the next smart thing to do is then to narrow it down, right? If you have 20 things, then you do a quick analyze to narrow it down to your top 5. You go, okay, just delete those. I don't like them. Here's my top 5. And then with those top 5 or top 3 or whatever it is, you analyze like which one is the best option for me to try first, right? And then you can go with which one's the next best and stuff like that. And if you don't like any of them, if all of them are like, they're not going to work, then you need to go into that like brainstorming mode of like, I don't know if brainstorm's the right word, but you need to look at each of these reasons that you're giving for why it doesn't work, and see if you can overcome those. Right? So the example with Google would be, the reason why Google won't work for me is because I don't know how to use Google. Well, why not? So then the only thing you need to do is learn how to use Google, and then it will work for you, right? So you could just say, I'm going to learn how to use Google, right? Or you could say, I'm going to try to learn how to use Google, which, like most things in life, if we just try something, we actually learn how to do it. And maybe not the first time, maybe we try it and we're like, okay, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? But that to me is probably, if I could give you any advice for any of your questions, it's brainstorm a solution and then analyze your choices for the best one, and then do that best one. right? And then if that doesn't work, do the next best one, right? And if that doesn't work, do the next best one. Like try to figure out a way. But the people that I find are really successful in life, they don't take no for an answer, I guess is the way to say it. Like, in other words, they solve their problems. I shouldn't say they don't take no. They solve their problems, right? There's a problem, boom, I'm going to solve it, right? I've gotten extremely good at solving problems, and that's one of the reasons why I get hired so often, is because a lot of times when you go to an instructor for something or an organizer for something, they say, oh, I can't hire you because X, Y, and Z. And I go, oh, no problem. Let me help you solve X, Y, and Z. So become a problem solver. And a great way to problem solve is with the brainstorm, analyze, do method. Let's see. So I've already mentioned, like, one way to find a partner, dancepartner.com. Another way, there's actually quite a few different ways that we could come up with to find a dance partner that work really well. And actually, the next thing I want you to think about, though, is like, I think it's important. A lot of the time, people don't think about where they are in their own process of their dance journey, their teaching journey, or something like that. And so when they take advice, they take advice from someone else that maybe has succeeded at this, but they're not in the same place as that other. So the advice doesn't necessarily apply, right? And it just depends. It depends on the advice. For example, like if you were to ask me, how did I find a dance partner? I would say, well, I did an application process, and I actually like required people to go through a couple different steps in order to become my dance partner. And so first they have to apply for it. And once they apply, they have to, if I like them and I'm excited about them, then they have to watch a series of different videos of me teaching, and they have to learn my concepts. Once they learn those concepts, I test them on it and I see, okay, how well are you doing on those concepts? And if they do well on them, then I take them into a trial as a kind of a, I don't like this word, but I don't have a better word for it, but well, let's say a demonstration partner. That's a good word. They're there to demonstrate things and to follow me in class and watch what I'm doing, but they're not there to share their own ideas yet, right? Because first I want them to understand what the entire, like if they teach a class with me, I want them to understand the point of the class and how it flows and everything within that. And then once they understand it, then we'll talk after class and they'll give me their ideas of how they would have given input to improve the class, to make it better, right? And the reason why I do that is because I found that when I first started hiring partners, they weren't at the same level as me as far as like knowledge on dance and as far as knowing how to teach someone. And so when they started sharing their ideas, it would actually take us off track. And the classes were not as good by me adding a partner in. Instead of, like, for me, if I add a partner, the class better improve, right? That's the whole point of bringing in a partner, is to make the class better. Now, there are some elements that naturally improve by bringing in a partner. For instance, if they're at least a good dancer. If they're a good dancer, then like it can be inspiring to see somebody do the other role. Or in reality, I do both roles, so it's not that. It's more being able to see two people at a high level do both roles at the same, like, together, so that they can see, wow, this is what it could be like if both of us were at this very high level. And that's if you're doing like very specific move-based classes, that can be helpful. A lot of my classes aren't move-based, they're concept-based, and they're all about like, how do I take this concept and use it with every single partner? Like, how do I have awesome connection with every single partner I dance with, no matter what level they are, right? Whether they're like got the spaghetti arms with no frame, or whether they got rock solid frame or whatever. How do I like lead all my moves and have really killer connection with all these different people? And in that case, it's often actually better not to have a really high level partner, or let's say not to have, yeah, I don't know. If your partner is capable of changing connections and showing a whole bunch of different connections, then it can be fine to have a very high level dancer. But most people aren't at that level where they can just on the spot change their connection because they're so used to doing it a specific way. So in that case, it's actually better to show with a whole bunch of people from class, because everybody in class naturally dances a little bit different, has a different frame and things like that. So you can show and be like, here's me doing it with one person, here's me doing it with another. And then that's super inspiring and impressive to do. Anyway, my point is, I go through this application process to find partners, right? And my process is a lot more, it requires a lot more people to have an interest, right? Because not very many people are going to actually get through the whole process and then become my partner, right? So for me, it makes sense because I'm at a stage where I actually have a lot of people requesting to be my partner and asking me, hey, can I teach with you? Or hey, can I do this with you? And so it makes more sense for me to have the application process. Whereas if you're a new dancer and you don't have a lot of people asking you that, then it doesn't make as much sense to have an application process yet. So, and this is an important thing to think about, like in every bit of advice that you get, like the advice is not always going to be universal, right? And I'm going to try to give you advice that is universal, like as much as possible. But even me, like I was not trained how to teach universally. I had to train that in myself because there was no one out there, at least not that I know of, that was teaching universal concepts. So that's something I had to figure out for myself. And I know I'm not perfect yet. I'm certainly probably a lot better than 99.9% of other teachers that are teaching, just because they don't focus on that. So if they are teaching universally, it's usually on accident and just in parts of what they're sharing with you. But by having a focus on it, I've definitely, at least I'm a lot better. Maybe I'm not better than others. I don't know. That's for you to decide. But I'm definitely better than I was 10 years ago before I ever tried doing that, and better than I was last year, and better than I was 10 days ago. Every day I'm improving and going, oh, this is how I can make it a little more universal. So with that said, everything I'm going to share with you, I want you to think about, like, does this make sense for me where I'm at in my career, in my journey along the dance, in the dance world? So there's actually some really simple ways that people they probably think about, but they don't do. So I'm going to start with that. And one of them is just word of mouth, right? Just sharing with the community, like posting on Facebook, hey, like maybe making an announcement at the dance, hey, I'm looking for a partner. Especially think about like ways, people that have broad reach that know a lot of people. So like your teachers, your dance coaches, you know, organizers of events, those are people that talk to a lot of people. They have a wide reach. So if you mention to them, I'm looking for a dance partner, they might even already know some people that they think are perfect for you, right? And if they don't, they can put the word out, or they can start looking and start paying attention for things. So definitely put the word out in your community, and especially to those people, we call them I think it's the connectors, and the people that basically have wide reach that they can then find. Yeah, and I think a lot of people, like if I say that to you, some of you might already be blocking that out, might be going, oh, that won't work for me because I don't want a whole bunch of people coming to me that I don't want to partner with, right? Like I'm at this level and I don't want someone down here coming in and saying, oh, I want to part with you. And then I have to turn them down, right? And what I would say to that is, I would say get over it, honestly. Like I don't have, like, there's probably a nicer way for me to say this, but my way of saying it would be like, there's two things. Like, one, if you're saying that, you're falling into the trap that I mentioned earlier, the biggest mistake that all teachers make, and I'm going to share what that is soon. Well, and one thing, maybe even bigger mistake, is you're falling into the I'm not solving my problem, right? You have a problem there of I don't want to tell people no, or I don't want to have too many people coming to me, and not solving it, right? So quick ways of solving that. If you do really have a lot of people coming to you, then put in the application process. Boom. If they go through your application process, you have the choice, and you also have like an easy way of telling them, no, I don't want to partner with you. But you also have the choice of who to partner with. The other thing is you got to get used to being able to tell people, oh, you know, I'm looking for X, Y, and Z. You don't really fit that for me, right? Like, you got to be able to tell people no, or like, I'm not interested, or something like that, if that's where you're at, right? Now, I'm going to go ahead and say the biggest mistake that I think people make. And that's that everybody wants to dance with someone that's or better, right? Like, very few people are willing to just like, you know what? My options are limited right now, so I'm going to work with this person who's not at my level, you know? And I think like it's important, like, if you want a partner, you don't have to have a partner. There's plenty of people out there that don't use partners and teach dance and travel the world teaching dance without a partner. But if you want a partner, then you got to start somewhere. You got to be willing to take someone on that maybe isn't as good as you and train them to be as good as you, or train them even to be better than you. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, oh, there's no one in my town that's good enough to take this seriously, or no one that wants to take this seriously. And really, they just haven't asked. They just assume people don't want to take it seriously, and because they're not at a level that they are at, you know. So I think the biggest mistake is like not just taking on who's willing to be your partner, you know, just starting asking people and then being willing to take someone on. And I can tell you this, it is a lot easier to find a pro high level partner if you are at a high level, right? And if you're stopping yourself from getting to a high level because you don't have the right partner yet, right? Then like you're never going to get to that high level, because you're always going to be waiting for someone else to come in and do the work for you, right? For someone else to be the good enough partner, right? And that's not how 99.9% of really top-notch people get to where they're at, is not because they let someone else come in and do it for them. They go and they make it happen, right? And in most of the world, like in dance or not dance, is not like that. So odds are you're fighting against like training of not going and creating what you want, right? And you've got to change that if you want to be successful, I think, and be really successful. You can get to some degree of success by luck and by circumstance and other things, but like really getting what you want out of your life, exactly what you want, I think comes from creating that and deciding and going for that and finding a way and solving the problems. So become a pro, become a badass, become someone that other people want to, you know, that high level dancers want to partner with you. Even if they don't live in your town, they want to move to your town because you're a badass, right? Like, I remember I moved to Sacramento to work with somebody because they were badass. I was like, you know what? This person's really good. I want to work with them. So I'm going to go to their town, right? They put the work in to be that good. And the better you are, the easier, because like, for one, if you're not that good, if you're not successful already, if you're not like making a living off of this and it's easy, you can show someone, look, it's really easy, then it's a scary thing for someone to go pro, it's really scary for someone to be like, okay, I'm going to just try it out, right? And you might even want to have like a process for them built up for how they can go pro. But if you haven't done it yourself, then someone else probably isn't going to just jump on the bandwagon with you. The other thing I wanted to say, and I mentioned this briefly, but I want to go into more detail, is you don't need a partner to practice. You don't need a partner to become a champion. And maybe you need a partner for a very small amount of time, right? Although in a lot of dance scenes, they have these things called Jack and Jills, where like you don't actually have a partner. You just go and you get randomly paired up with someone. So you can become a champion in a Jack and Jill without even needing a partner at all. And if I think about, like, for me, when I became a world champion, I had a partner for a few months, you know, and we just worked together. But the reason why we jumped into world champion status was because we had already both put in a ton of work to be badass, right? Like, we took it serious, like very seriously. We both flew to Sweden to train for an entire month, 4 weeks of class, 6 days a week of classes, and dancing basically 24/7 whenever we wanted for an entire 4 weeks nonstop. We were dancing and improving ourselves and getting to the point where we're ready to go to the world championships. So like, is don't think you need it, and certainly you don't need a partner for long. You can then, once you're really good, you get a partner that's really good, boom, things skyrocket. The other thing I would say is, and I've kind of mentioned this, but I think it's important to point out, is you be willing to work with lots of people. You don't need one partner. You can have 10 partners. I don't know, that might be a bit much, but I mean, over the years, certainly I've had well over 10 partners. You know, and I travel week to week in different places, so I'll partner up with someone just for that weekend. But be willing to work with multiple people, because different people have different perspectives. Like, even different levels of dancers have different perspectives. It can be really helpful to have people at different levels and different experiences, life experiences. Bringing, you know, someone with a sports background is completely different than someone with a dance background, and that's completely different than someone with like martial arts training. The people that have different trainings, you know, bring different things to the board. And even someone just with like a engineering background or probably like a medical background are all different things. They have different things that they've lived through in their life that give different perspectives, and they'll, even without thinking about it, they'll naturally be bringing that to the partnership. Another thing, I just start asking, like, ask people, if you find someone that you love dancing with, ask them, hey, do you want to practice sometime? And you don't have to start by saying, do you want to be my dance partner? Like, that's a huge commitment. Like, why not just say, do you want to practice? Do you want to get together and practice sometime? An hour, right? And if they enjoy that, to the next step, right? Think about it like a dance partner is sort of like asking someone to get married, right? Do that right away. You go on a couple dates first, right? And even those, like, if you go to like dancepartner.com and you ask for a dance partner, even there, the people recognize that, like, in reality, you're just going on a few dates, right? You're just going and practicing together. And at any point, you might decide to jump ship or go with someone else or something like that. And the other thing I would say is, like, be really clear about what you're looking for and what you're willing to work with at the beginning. So, like, I'm looking for someone long term, you know, to be like my partner, to be professional and to win. You know, my goal is to win the world championships, or my goal is to win this competition, or to win a local competition. Whatever your goal is, let them know that. But I also know that, like, if that's not your goal, like, I still want someone to practice with. So it's okay. Like that doesn't have to be your goal. And maybe it will change. Maybe that will be your goal down the road. But that is my goal. And so like, if I find someone that's better suited towards that, I might look for that person, you know? And I think the last thing, and I've mentioned this a little bit, but I do want to say is really be open to working with anyone. Like if you're a partner, then like keep your options open, you know? And again, this all depends on your level and how many people want to partner with you. If right now you feel like no one wants to partner with you, then be open to working with literally anyone, right? If you feel like you have 5 partners to choose from right now, then like you can be a little bit more picky, right? And if you have 10 partners, you need an application process. But those are my thoughts on how to find a dance partner. Again, dancepartner.com is one you can look up. If I briefly go through them again, just start word of mouth, like talking to your community, talking to your teachers and coaches, and finding people to spread the word that you're looking for a partner. But don't stall your own progress. Make sure that you are continuing to become more, improving your dancing, improving your teaching, improving your business processes, and improving yourself as a human being and a person, so that when you do find that person that's at the level that's ready to like go pro with you, they want to go pro with you because you're at the level that you need to be. So don't stop becoming don't wait, right? That's the biggest mistake people make, is they wait to become great or to become pro, or until they find the right partner. Be open to working with that. Anyone, ask people, especially the people you love dancing with, work with lots of people and use an application process if you need to.